8:36, and when you need a transplant operation, waiting for the right organ can become a race against time.
But the donor register has helped thousands. It's a huge database of millions of willing donors, and today marks its 10th anniversary. We'll have more about that in a moment.
But first, here's the rather moving story of Michael Bentley, who was dying of heart failure when one family's tragedy gave him a second chance.
Philip was 13 when he had his road accident, and he died from a massive head injury. He was just on his way to play basketball with his brother and a friend to his local school in the Easter holidays, and he was hit by a car and he didn't have a chance really. And that's when my world fell apart really.
The day that the call came from the hospital to say that her heart was available was the very day that I thought I was near the end, and I said to my wife that I think I'm dying, I'm going now. And she said, no, you're not, it'll be okay. Anyway, we got the call and we were taken straight in by ambulance within an hour.
I was sat at Philip's bedside, and although he looked perfect, it was the machines that were keeping him alive, and I knew that what made Philip had already gone. The body was just a shell, and what's the point of burying it or burning it? You might as well use it if you can help somebody else.
2 years after the operation, I had a letter out of the blue from the donor's parents, David and Anthea, saying they would like to meet us. At first we thought that would be quite an agonising, traumatic experience, but they made it extremely welcome and we've become firm friends. Oh, David.
Oh, Michael.
Oh, yes.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Oh, I was waiting for you out there.
It's great to see Michael and his family, and to see him doing so well. I think it gives us sort of a peace of mind and makes some sense of a stupid situation. I mean, he's been given a second chance and he's making the most of it, and it's great.
Well, we're approaching Upper Wednesday. I mean, that's Pen Hill over there. Of course, it's a wonderful gift, and you have to think of the trauma they were on the same day as they offered the heart to be available. They had lost their son, which is the saddest part of everything. But as far as I'm concerned, I now live a perfectly normal life. I'm obviously on heavy medication, which I always will be, but that's a very small price to pay for several more years of life.
Joined now by the women who campaigned for 5 years to set up the organ donor register. Christine Cox and the Chief Executive of UK Transplant, Sue Sutherland. Good morning, welcome to you both. Christine, you had very personal reasons, didn't you, why you wanted to set up this register?
Yes, my brother Peter was suffering from a brain tumour and sadly died in 1989. But just before he died, he counselled us that he wanted to leave his organs to the benefit of other people. And then it was up to us to make sure that his wishes were carried out. Thankfully, 17 people benefited from Peter, and that included a teacher who resumed a normal life, started a family, and a grandfather who saw his first grandchildren and enjoyed another 12 years of very happy family life.
How extraordinary, lovely story to have been involved in that as well, despite your grief, obviously.
I mean, up to the point at which the register was set up, it was down to people carrying organ donor cards. That was it, wasn't it?
That was it. And when Peter died, we realised that the donor card was not as effective as it could be, and that there was a great need to have a register of the people that were willing to give.
So what difference has this donor register and carrying donor cards actually made?
I think the register has made a huge difference. I mean, there are 11.6 million people actually registered on the register, and what happens is that it's open for staff in the NHS to access when they have decided that somebody has died. So actually it's a permanent record of the wishes of an individual. So it's made a huge difference because people die in an intensive care unit, they can access the details and say, yes, this person said.
But then consent still needs to be sought.
Well, at the moment, the relatives are asked whether or not they would object to donation, but what we know in practice is if you have registered your wishes to donate, then your relatives will very rarely refuse and actually will honour your wishes.
10 years on, what kind of transplants are taking place now that didn't at the beginning?
Well, the transplants have become incredibly successful. I mean, they can transplant kidneys, pancreases, hearts, lungs, livers and corneas, and they are incredibly successful, and we have people living many years after they've had their transplants. I mean, some people have lived for 40 years
So
more.
it is making a
It's making
real
a
difference.
huge difference, absolutely.
And Christine, just tell us a bit more about the struggle you had to set it up. It was quite a battle. It took you 5 years.
It was 4 years,
Okay.
but it was well worth it. I think Peter's story, he was so courageous. He was only just 24, and that has inspired a lot of people. But it just shows that with a lot of lobbying, and my parents and I wrote a lot of letters and talked to a lot of radio stations and the media, it's amazing what can be done, and the government gave me just what I wanted, and the NHS Organ Donor Register was set up 10 years today.
You've told a very moving story in the past, reading about you before we met you, about the time you met the 10th millionth person that was registered.
Well, yes, that was a couple of years ago, and Sue very kindly invited me to Bristol, and I met the 10 millionth person. But at the end of the event, I was just leaving, and as I left the car park, a gentleman came up and gave me a great big hug, and I'd never met him before. And I sort of said, "Do I know you?" And he said, "No, but if it wasn't for the register, I wouldn't be alive today. I had a transplant 2 years ago, and thank you." And it's not something I generally think about. I'm more concerned for the 7,000 people on the waiting list. But it did send a shiver down my spine to think what the register has meant to so many thousands of people.
Really brings it home, doesn't it? And the ribbons you're wearing, presumably celebrating this 10th anniversary.
Absolutely. This is the campaign for organ donation, and the challenge, it's the 10th anniversary, the challenge is to get even more people joined up as soon as possible.
And it's all about raising awareness as well, isn't it? Thank you both very much indeed for coming in. And to find out how to sign up to the NHS Organ Donor Register, call us 08707 87 87 87. We'll give you all the details. Or of course you can log on to our website bbc.co.uk/breakfast, and all you need to know will be there for you.
Absolutely.